I love that example. That sounds like such a fun date
Well,
to just
particularly if you live in like a big city where there's like a lot of things to do and nooks and crannies to explore.
heck yeah. Oh my gosh, that is like now I kind of want to go to London and just be like, this is my jar of cash to take myself on a date. That sounds like so much fun. I love your response to what do you find most attractive in men?
Remember what I said? But,
Oh, you said besides well-developed delts.
I mean, I do love like looking at a man with broad, well-developed shoulders, but that's
Girl, same. To me, like, and it's so funny because I've said that to people before, like not said well-developed delts, but just basically like I like shoulders, you know.
mm,
And I've had guys go, "Oh, well, then that means you want a fit guy," and I'm like, "No, no, 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 no," because a guy can have broad
go ahead.
shoulders. Yeah, sorry, guys can have broad shoulders and still not be like super super fit, but I'm still going to be attracted to that because it all has to, for me, it all has to do with how you hug me. And if you hug me and I feel safe,
Yes.
that's that's all I want.
See, here's the thing for me. Okay, so when I was, and I still do, I will still say, like, physically, like, I go crazy for like really tall, really skinny, or like, slender guys. Like, I love like tall and lanky ever since I was
Mhm.
a teenager, really. But as I've gotten older, I definitely have come to appreciate guys who have muscle. You don't have to have like, an eight pack with your like cut, or like, like I said, you have well developed delts, or like, the veiny forearms or what have you. Like, but I mean, I would say currently it's like, like to me, you don't have to be muscular. The fact that you're like, a lot of guys, like I said, who I liked or I have liked since I was a teenager, are like string beans, basically.
Mhm. I love the way you said that though. But I think that also points into a lot of guys' perceptions of like the whole 666 thing, which we're not even going to go into the fact that that's basically the devil's number, but whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, that's so wrong. But anyway, that's another rant. But like, I feel like with women, our attraction level is so varied. Like me, I have dated all different types of guys. And, most people assume, well, most guys that I've talked to, like, assume, oh, this is the type of guy that I want. And I'm like, okay, but let me show you my exes. You know what I mean? I'm like, I got this guy over here who was like a skinny twig. And then I had this guy who was like extremely built. And then I had another guy who was like, you know, dad bod city, and I'm just like, but I was extremely attracted to all of them. And it had more to do with their personality than their physical attributes. I mean, obviously I was physically attracted to them too, but it had more to do with their varied personalities that I was like, yes, this is who I want to date right now because of, I'm attracted to that part of you, not so much the physical.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let me see. Yes, on a shrivelous man, because doors do not open themselves. Agreed, girl. Agreed. I cannot stand it when a guy doesn't open a door. I'm like, what am I, chopped liver? Like, what
I
the?
mean, also bear in mind that I'm Southern. So like, I
Yeah.
mean, obviously you have a-holes everywhere and like, and like, especially in this generation, like a lot of chivalry is declining, but I mean, just in general, like the courtesy, because not even just like, if I'm like about to enter a store and I see you behind me, like I'm gonna hold the door, but it's just like, like I really love like, a like just Southern boys do that, at least traditional, like, Southern boys with like a lot of old school manners, like, like holding the door open or pulling out the chair or like,
Mhm.
like making sure you walk on like the inside of the side or that sort of thing, it's just I mean, just they do it better in the South. What can I say?
I would have to agree. Again, because I was just in North Carolina. And so all week long, I had doors held open for me. I had the whole actual eye contact. What? Like, I don't get that here. And
Okay, where is
then
here for you?
California.
Uh,
Yeah, so that's why. I mean, there are some decent guys out here. I've had many guys just, that strangers hold open doors and stuff like that. But I get that more when I go somewhere else, is basically what I'm trying to say.
yeah,
So anyway, but that's the other reason why I like traveling is, you get to experience the different cultural norms in these other places. And you're right, like the South does that so much better than I feel like anywhere else. But yeah, I no longer mind the yes ma'ams and no ma'ams.
yeah.
I
Except
actually
it kind of makes you feel old when someone pulls out the.
So this other question, do you believe that there's only one person for you? I want to touch on this a little bit because I feel like Christians, especially those who are raised in the church, we get this like mindset that God is writing our love story, right? And it's going to be perfect and it's going to be this one person and we just have to wait to find them. But that's not actually accurate. So I just kind of wanted to ask, like, how do you feel about that? Do you have you experienced that kind of like stuff in church where, it's like the whole God's going to write your love story. You just have to wait for the one, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard that, like, not just necessarily in church, but throughout Christian culture, saying like, a God-written love story. And like, I agree with that notion, but I feel like it's very naive, but also just not biblical. Like, well, hold up. Okay, in certain there are certain examples in the Bible where there was like the one, like with Isaac and Rebecca, for example. Yeah, and Adam and Eve, obviously. But it's just like where there was, specifically one person for, a certain person. But even like today, like that's rare. Like I have met couples who according to them, it's like, okay, God, people say like, oh, God told me you were a spouse. Like, no, like they were legitimately told, and it was confirmed that like, that their spouse, like was their spouse. So, I mean, I'm not ruling that out. And like, it does happen, but that's rare comparatively speaking,
Mm-hmm.
So in general, for the vast majority of people, like the one for you is the one that you commit to. And even for those people who like God did either through, like prophecy and words of knowledge or something like that, or like a dream or a vision, like did show them their spouse, at the end of the day, they had to choose to commit to that person.
I agree. And I think that's another thing, like where we in the general Christian realm, right, will get like caught up on the whole free will versus not free will side of things, because you still have the right and the ability to make that choice. And you can, and my belief is that you can make it work with not anybody, but a majority of people, as long as you're willing to put in the work. Like if you match up on these things, right? Like your list of things, your core values, then at the end of the day, that's what really matters. And,
Yeah.
you know,
But I feel like I mean, a lot of people are super naive, not only with like the idea that like, oh, there just has to be this one person between like 7 billion people, who is like, my one. Like, unless God did really reveal to you, like, okay, he had like a specific ideal person in mind for you, but also the notion, like, you know, a long time ago, one of my uh friends, like, he told me that, like, like, hey, like, as long as she's Christian and good looking, then like, I can make it work with like any girl, like, because I've been with girls with various personalities and that sort of thing. And granted, he was still a baby Christian at the time. And it's like, dude, you're not taking into account things like, assignment, especially. Like if you're called to like stay in one particular place. Meanwhile, she's called to be an itinerant missionary. That's a clash right there, you know?